It was a little after 7 when I arrived back at my Palo Alto home. I had taken the reel of Ed's death from the video store, hoping that by destroying it I would also destroy the skeleton. I placed it on top of some kindling in my fireplace and set the pile alight. In the video, Ed's cries had been replaced by classical music. However, as the Super 8 film burned, blood-curdling screams filled my house. I was sure that one of my neighbors would call the cops, but no one did. Perhaps I was the only one who could hear Ed's torturous cries. As the last of the film burned, his screams were replaced by maniacal laughter, the laughter of the skeleton from Desert War. He was mocking me, for I had not defeated him. Perhaps he could not be killed, but I couldn't give up. I had 3 leads to follow up on: the URL from the poster, Ed's old address in Daly City, and the copy of his children's book in the collections of the San Jose Museum of Art. I first checked out the URL, rishkamuhcsd.com. As I suspected, the domain had long since expired. However, I was able to find its archived contents on the Wayback Machine. The site had been saved on 2 dates: March 2nd, 2002, 4 days before Ed's death, and April 1st, 2002, 3 days before Jason disappeared. The snapshot from April 1st was the site Jose had described visiting. Underneath an image of a skeleton in a sorcerer's hat, the visitor was prompted to enter their email for a chance to win a copy of Desert War. That one page comprised the entire site. The March snapshot took me to the typical late 90s, early 2000s homepage. On top of the page, a scrolling marquee read, "Welcome to the enchanted world of Ed the Sorcerer." Below it was an animated GIF of a door opening and closing. Underneath the GIF, bright red text warned, "Enter at your own peril." Undeterred, I clicked on the door. A photo of a smiling Ed sitting at a desk, wearing his green sorcerer's hat, appeared. Below it was a hit counter, 007, and a link to sign the guest book, which, unsurprisingly, was empty. To the left of Ed's photo was a panel with 4 hyperlinks: bio, pics, contact, and events. The first 3 links took me to pages empty save for yellow and black banners that read, "Under construction." I was expecting the same for events. However, after clicking it, I was informed that the famous Ed the Sorcerer will be speaking at the library of Palo Alto High School on Tuesday, March 5th, 2002, at 3 p.m. The day before Ed killed himself, Ed spoke at the high school that Jason Statler had attended. I'd call the school tomorrow morning, hoping to get more info on what occurred during Ed's talk. I'd also visit the art museum that held the copy of Ed's children's book when it opened at 11. But I was running out of time. Even though it was well past sunset, I decided to head to Ed's old Daly City address, hoping I would find a clue to the location of his brother Frank. It was a rundown 3-story building off of Hillside Boulevard. The parking lot was empty. However, the exterior lights were on and a middle-aged man was pruning some rose bushes. An odd time for landscaping work. "Excuse me," I said to him. "I'm a journalist doing a story on Ed Schumacher. Did you know him by chance?" He nodded.
"I'm the super. Been working here since '96. I didn't just know Ed. I found his body. Or his bones, I should say. That was all there was left of him."
"Is it okay if I ask you some questions about him?"
"How about I show you his old apartment? This place is going to be demolished in a few weeks to make room for a new mid-rise. The whole building is empty."
I couldn't believe my luck. We ascended the stairs to Unit 202. As we stepped through the door, the super flicked on the lights. We were in a small kitchenette. Its linoleum tile was yellowed and black mold was growing on the walls. I followed the super as he made his way past the kitchen and through another door. I immediately recognized the room as the one from the video. The beige walls with flaking paint looked the same as they did over 20 years ago. A large window overlooked the parking lot. Tacked up on either side of it were several unframed watercolors depicting Bay Area landmarks: the Golden Gate Bridge covered in fog, Hoover Tower at Stanford University, the Painted Ladies by Alamo Square Park, the Marine Headlands, the Sea Lions of Pier 39, and Chinatown's Dragon Gate. Sticking out amongst the paintings of iconic Bay Area sites was a watercolor of two blonde-haired kids standing underneath the Modesto Arch. "Are these paintings by Ed?" I asked. The super nodded.
Yep. After he died, no one took them, so they just stayed on the walls. Pretty pieces.
Did Ed live alone?
He did. Don't recall him ever having visitors, except for one man who came around quite frequently in the days before his death. Think he was his brother, maybe even his twin. They looked nearly identical. Never talked to him.
That confirmed my suspicions that Frank was involved in Ed's death. But I still didn't know why he had convinced his brother to kill himself. "What was Ed like?" I asked.
He looked strange, always wore that weird hat. But he didn't cause any problems like many of the other tenants did. Was always polite, gifted me some paintings of the rose bushes he made. But then he did you know what?
The super pointed to a spot on the floor.
If you look there, you can see where the acid ate into the wood. I remember some muffled screams coming from his apartment that day, but thought nothing of it. Thought that he was just watching a loud horror movie or something. They lasted for about an hour. The next day, there was a complaint about some odor coming from his unit, so I went to check it out. No one answered when I knocked. I entered, and in his bedroom, I saw what he had done to himself. He had installed some soundproofing in there, but you could still hear his screams from outside. Can't imagine what they sounded like if you were in there with him.
I didn't have to imagine. Did you find a note or anything near his body? I asked.
No, nothing like that. The cops came and searched the place, but found nothing. A few days later, some junk haulers came and took away all his belongings. There was nothing valuable in his unit. All that remains are his paintings.
I had hoped that there would be a clue in this apartment that pointed to Frank's whereabouts, but there didn't seem to be anything. "Thank you very much for your time," I said to the super. "Have a good night."
No, wait. There is something else you'd like to see. Look at the corner to the right of the window. There's blood splatter there.
I looked. There were some dark rust-colored stains on the beige walls. I wondered why it hadn't been painted over. Replacing the acid-damaged flooring might be expensive, but a coat of paint would be cheap. "Is that Ed's blood?" I asked.
Nope, that's mine. I was changing the batteries on the smoke detector a few months after Ed offed himself when I had a heart attack and fell off the ladder. Hit my head on the wall.
Oh, wow. Glad you're okay.
Ha ha ha! Ed's wasn't the only death in this room. By the time the paramedics got here, I was dead. They took my body out, but I never left. I had no family of my own. My few friends were all dead. The only things that brought me joy were the rose bushes you saw me pruning, planted them back in '99. I knew that without my care, they would die, and I couldn't let that happen.
Even after my experiences with the skeleton, I initially thought that the super was playing a prank on me. But then I saw blood, fresh blood, run down the walls.
Oh, I'm not joking. I'm dead serious. It's a lonely life, haunting a condemned apartment building. But recently, I've been visited by another spirit. Not Ed's ghost. I don't know whose it is, but it's not Ed. This spectre sometimes tells me to do stuff. Stuff that I don't want to do, but he is too powerful to resist.
The super started convulsing, like he was having a seizure, and his mouth was pulled into a horrific grimace. I dashed towards the door, but he rushed over and blocked it, moving impossibly fast for someone his age, or for someone of any age for that matter. From the pocket of his jeans, he produced a pocket knife encrusted with blood.
Game over,
the super said. His voice had changed, had become hoarser, raspier, like that of someone who had smoked 2 packs a day for 40 years. As I backed up, he started advancing towards me, knife raised. I looked around the room, hoping to find something I could use as a weapon, but the room was empty. My only escape route was the window. I ran over and tried to open it, but it was stuck. I kept pushing as the super made his way slowly towards me, moving much slower than I knew he was capable of. He was playing with me, like how a cat plays with a captured mouse. I kept pushing up on the window pane. Finally, it budged. As I jumped through the window, I felt the blade of the Super's knife graze my shoulders. I landed on one of the rose bushes, its thorns cutting through my clothes. I was bruised and bloody, but I had somehow survived. As I hurried to my car, I heard laughter coming from the window of Unit 202. I had a handgun stored in a safe on my bedside table. I planned to retrieve it before I went to sleep, hoping that it would be transported back to video game land with me, hoping that it would be effective against the skeleton. However, I didn't even make it out of my garage before I passed out. I was back on the same race course as before. Well, nearly the same. The movement of the asteroid seemed slightly choppier than before. The graphics, already poor, were even less detailed, but it was clearly the same track. I knew I could not win this level by conventional means, but my attempts to ram the skeleton's rocket were ineffective. There was no collision detection. My rocket just passed right through his. What I needed to find was a power-up or a shortcut. I had played enough games that I knew what to look for. As I progressed along the course, I looked for an asteroid that looked slightly different, or a line of static on the track that could represent a hidden shortcut, but found nothing. I continued along, hoping I'd see something, but never did. Like the night before, I was about to cross the finish line when the skeleton materialized in front of me, and my rocket exploded. I was transported to the skeleton's lair, where I was once again devoured. One of my 2 remaining hearts faded away. I woke up on my garage floor. It was 8:04 a.m. I checked the news to see if there were any updates on the case of Adam Kim. His body was still missing, but his severed head had been found in a trash can at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, over 50 miles from his home. In addition, a 15-year-old named Ethan Green had vanished from his home in Marin County. The article said that the police had begun investigating a possible link between the recent disappearances and that of Jason Statler 20 years ago, but I could not rely on them for help. Time was running short. I had 1 life left. Today was the day I needed to locate the mastermind behind all of this, Ed's brother, Frank.